Well, let's stay with our environmental theme, and delegates and campaigners from around the globe are currently meeting in Baku, Azerbaijan at the COP29 climate conference. Many heads of government are absent, but today Sir Keir Starmer addressed the event, committing his UK government to a more ambitious climate target of an 81% cut in emissions by 2035. Meanwhile, Azerbaijan's president stirred up some controversy when he branded fossil fuels like oil and gas a gift of God.
But a global problem also requires global partnership, responsible international cooperation, which is why we took the opportunity at this COP to again urge all parties to come forward with ambitious targets of their own, as we all agreed at the last COP.
It's a gift of the God. Every natural resource, whether it's oil, gas, wind, sun, gold, silver, copper, all that are natural resources. And countries should not be blamed for having them and should not be blamed for bringing these resources to the market, because the market needs them.
We reflected on COP29 with Laura Young, a Scottish climate campaigner who's at the conference. What did you make of Keir Starmer's speech today and the target that he announced? It's very ambitious. Do you welcome that?
The first thing to say is he is one of the only world leaders that has shown up. We don't have the presidents or prime ministers from places like the US, Canada, EU, China, India, Germany, France. So it's great that he's here. But of course, we need to dig into what he said. Now, the ambition is there, 81% emission reductions target as part of this new contribution that we have given. However, a target is just a target. What we need to hear is how that policy is implemented. And we know all too well what it means to have ambitious targets like the Scottish Government did, and that they can be removed or we can fail to reach them. So it's a great first start. This is, of course, Keir Starmer's first time as Prime Minister at one of these COP conferences, a change from the Conservatives now that we have this Labour government. So they definitely are poising themselves as climate leaders with this ambition, but we need to see what does that actually look like on the ground, and do they have the policies to follow it up?
Well, the Prime Minister also says he's not going to tell people how to live their lives, but do you think maybe we do need to tell people how to live their lives? Otherwise, how are we going to reach these very ambitious targets?
What we need to move away from is individual people having to make the decision to change their lifestyle to be more sustainable. We should be looking at the big picture and working out how can we make changes so that everybody can be contributing just day-to-day living. We need to be looking at the big parts of infrastructure, of energy, of transport, and looking at how we can make big changes that impact us all. It's great that people want to take lifestyle action, and I can see why we don't want to force people to take lifestyle action and make those sacrifices or changes. But ultimately, it's now Keir Starmer and his cabinet's job to be making sure that our energy systems are more efficient and more green and clean. There we go. But also looking at how we have infrastructure that is really environmentally friendly, how we can ensure that we are doing the big pieces that people don't have the power to change themselves.
There's been a lot of controversy about the choice of the country to host COP29 because of Azerbaijan's host to the ties to the oil and gas industry. And its president said today that oil and gas were gifts from God.
Yes, this is controversial, and this is COP29, so it's the 29th time it's happened, and this is the second time we have had an oil state hosting. Last year it was in Dubai, this year of course Baku in Azerbaijan, and this is the second time that we have seen fossil fuel influence from the top down, whether that's discussions about deals that might be made around fossil fuels, or of course comments like the one you've just mentioned. And it is difficult because you can see coming to this country the development that has been possible on the back of fossil fuels, just like we have in the UK and the US and many other parts of the world. But what we need to make sure we understand is what's the cost of fossil fuels. The cost is global warming, increasing flooding and drought and devastation. So it might seem like a gift from God at first, but actually it has real life consequences. And we need to understand that this gift from God is also finite. It's going to run out, and we need to be moving to renewable sources of energy.
And is anything going to come from this summit?
Well, we hope two things in particular. The first is that we have contributions from countries in terms of carbon emission reductions. That's what we heard Keir Starmer talking about for the UK with 81% reduction. So we want to see more commitments and more ambition. But this COP is poised as the finance COP. So we want to see money on the table, money for climate finance and money for loss and damage.
Are these annual gatherings worth it? Lots of people flying across the globe to get there, including climate activists, like yourself, are flying there to get there. I mean, is it worth it?
I get it. And I'm the first to hold my hands up and say it's not perfect and there's lots that we could be doing better. But when you have a global summit with all the countries in the United Nations, logistically, it is not possible to do it without meeting in person. And hopefully the decisions that we take are offset by any emissions actually putting on the show. And the stance that most of us take is it's not perfect. It does need reform. It does need changed. But without this, we have no global negotiations or conferences on climate change. And if we weren't to have had it, we would be in a much worse place. And we certainly do see outcomes around finance, around energy contributions, around different technologies, innovations, policies. So there are things that come out of it that are good, but we do need to reform it.
OK, Laura Young, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.